at 936-441-8778.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available in Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Weekly Business Hour. I deeply appreciate you joining us today. I think we've got a lot of good information to share with you. We've got wonderful in-studio guests to talk about. We're going to talk about commercial real estate today. It's a topic that any business owner, one way or another, has to deal with, whether you lease or you own. Commercial real estate's important. So hopefully we'll help you educate yourself and become better acquainted with what you need to know so you get the best deal, right? It's all about the deal. We're broadcasting live today from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located in downtown Conroe, Texas. Conroe is one of the fastest growing cities in America. So if you don't live in this area, just imagine a place where there's so much business. It is unbelievable, because that's what I believe. And I've been around business a long, long time. It's unbelievable the growth we're experiencing in Conroe and Montgomery County. Conroe's the county seat, so it's sort of the center of that growth. I encourage you, as I do every week, that if you're not part of our community, please join it. It's real simple. Go to my website at that's the number 1, bestconsult.com. You can sign up. We'll keep you in the loop, tell you what's going on out there. We'll take your questions, your business questions. Love to get those. In fact, we talk about some of those emails on the show. So if you've just got a question about a challenge you're facing or comment about the show, anything, drop us an email at bestconsult.com. Well, let's start with a quick thought. Let's get our minds working a little bit so we can focus on the information and the education that I hope you'll be receiving today. How's your business lining up for summer? Well, there I heard a chuckle even over the radio waves. Summer's a long way off. Well, it is and it isn't. But this is something I do every year. Try to remind people that when summer comes, many, in fact, most businesses are impacted by the changes that summer wrought. First of all, developing a vacation schedule. Make sure you start early, maybe in May, not at April, but we're winding down in April as it is here. And make sure you schedule your people, get them slotted in so you've got coverage in your business. I have known businesses that inadvertently didn't pay attention to this issue, and all of a sudden they didn't have enough people to work, and their business was still in business, still had customers coming in, and they were short something they created themselves. Also, I encourage you this year, particularly as really the last year or two, check on your supply chain. If you're buying products, supplies, and you've had troubles, particularly in the last couple of years, getting your goods, if you will, be sure you check on those, because with the economy having its little hiccups now, perhaps a recession, I don't know that anybody will ever admit we're having a recession, but we could go through another challenge, and if it does, it'll be in the next 3 to 6 months most likely, as far as the immediate future. So make sure you've got your supplies, goods that you need to operate your business. Make sure you've got that all lined up the best you can. And then 3, take a look at your sales. What are they trending? We just finished the first quarter. And for the most part, at least here in the Conroe area, everybody's up. They're growing. year-over-year sales, it's just amazing in some cases, the rate of growth, double-digit, easy. So take a look at that and project the summer. Just take an extra couple minutes, maybe that you wouldn't have in past years, and project so that you have enough employees, you have enough product or goods, supplies to produce what it is you produce, and you've got enough people to manage that and everything that goes along with that, so that you don't have to lose business because you weren't ready to do business. So with that said, the weekly business hour is the place where Montgomery County and businesses today, thankfully throughout the world, come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their businesses, and to be part of conversations that we believe can make a real difference in your business even today. And I want to remind you that the show is currently being broadcast live on YouTube and Facebook. Just go to the Weekly Business Hour page and click on that you want to listen as well as watch the program today. And today, moving to the heart of our show, and that's our conversation with our business guest. And we are fortunate today. We're going to talk about commercial real estate, as I mentioned early on. It's a topic we really haven't addressed for a number of years, but it is one of the things, again, as I said earlier, almost every, if not every small business needs to address its real estate, whether you lease and you have a landlord or whether you buy. I find many small businesses are kind of in between. They want to buy, they think about it, but they're concerned. They're a little bit afraid. And hopefully after our conversation today, you'll feel more comfortable, at least that you understand the challenge, and potentially it'll be one that you'll want to take on. Well, our guest today is Valorie Williams. She's an associate with MHW Brokerage Services, located right here in downtown Conroe, Texas. Valorie, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Rick.
Well, all things real estate. Tell us a little bit about you, your business background, and what brought you to today.
Yeah, my family's been in real estate as long as I can remember. So we primarily focused on single family, but I grew up on the construction side. So I've been in and out of helping with the single family rental properties. When I went out on my own, I kind of kept along those lines. So I was a licensed contractor. I was a property inspector, and I just started kind of buying our own properties throughout the years. Basically, we became super active about 7 years ago. I became a full-time investor. So we were flipping houses, wholesaling houses, and networking and just connecting with people all the time. So that was kind of my whole life, was just investing in single-family properties. And then just kind of as it grew, our portfolio starts to grow, and as it starts to grow, single family kind of transitions into more commercial. So then I started connecting more with commercial individuals for, bundling our properties a little bit, and then started looking at other asset classes. Managing individual homes was really time consuming, so I got interested in multifamily, and then from there connected with some self-storage investors, and just kept my education going, and have done extensive, research and underwriting in those asset classes, which have transitioned me into full-time commercial.
Your background gives you, in my opinion, a really unique perspective over a typical, if I can say there is a typical commercial broker associate who assists people in buying commercial properties or selling them if they need to sell them, because you've been on the other side of the table, or on a different side of the table, being that you owned, you managed, you've been on the inside, so to speak. How do you find that helps you as far as when you're working with somebody on buying and selling a commercial property?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly valuable, and it's amazing how you just feel like your story is everyone's story. So I feel that most commercial brokers I come across all have investment properties because you have that knowledge and that experience, and you're in it day in and day out. Being on the investor side, it just makes sense to actually capitalize on, what you're in. But I actually struggled with that a little bit. A lot of commercial brokers, they don't want you to be connected to both. So I found that super interesting, because when I connect with my clients, it's a value, it's not a hindrance. And so being able to either provide a little bit of guidance, there is kind of a gray area there. I can't actually consult or give advice or anything like that. But since I have that background and understanding, then I can touch on, maybe some concerns or questions that come about of someone who is newer stepping in, or, reaching out to a different asset class if they're focused on one specifically, or aligning them with a professional that can actually help them, because commercial isn't, it isn't like a 6-month investment. I mean, when you go into commercial, you're going to go in, hopefully for at least a decade, but if not, at least 3 to 5 years. And so, you want to know what you're stepping into of every aspect of it. So I love being on both sides, and I love helping other individuals be able to find what they need, and educating them on what to look for and, best next steps. So.
Well, in your career, looking back over what you've shared with us today, you became a true entrepreneur. It sounds like you just sort of moved into it over a period of time. You were working in a family business, then you went out and got a skill set, inspector, construction. Again, another all-around ability that you have, or background that many or most commercial brokers aren't going to have. So when did you decide, if there was a point in time, to be on your own? In other words, be an entrepreneur?
I think kind of my whole life. My dad owned and operated his own company, so he was a bridge engineer. So we grew up doing construction, and so I always saw a home office, and we worked every summer for my dad's company. So kind of owning and operating your own situation has always been my thought process. So kind of stepping into that was just a natural path. Real estate, like I said, it was always the retirement plan for my parents, and so we're kind of aligned with it a little bit. And I bounced around a little bit because, real estate is just a general concept. There are so many different facets to it that you just kind of have to find your niche and what really calls to you. And so I have had lots of different experience and just trying to find what really connects with me. So,
well, by being in business for yourself or with your family, what is the thing you really enjoy about that the most? What have you got where you couldn't get that, say, if you were working for someone else?
I would say open-ended opportunity. You never really have that feeling that you just can't do anything. I have worked for companies and you're just kind of stuck. If you have an idea or you feel really passionate about whatever position you're in, you're just not heard, or you can't actually run with that because you have a job description and you're supposed to just do that, and that's what you get paid for, and that's it. So you're just kind of in, and so it feels very limited. So being an entrepreneur, being out on your own, you really can kind of create whatever you want to create and go whichever path you want to go, and hopefully get paid for it along the way.
Well, let me ask you then, you've done residential, obviously have a deep background in that. You've been around commercial, even infrastructure. You just mentioned with your family and building bridges. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Boy, that's another area in and of itself. But what is the difference in work, from your perspective, working or owning, either owning or working in residential versus commercial?
I think residential and commercial are night and day. I know my brother's had come across that problem where he's done thousands and thousands of rehabs, and he tries to transition to commercial, and these, big time commercial investors, they always say, well, what is your commercial experience? What is your commercial experience? And he's like, I've been doing this for 2 decades. But when you step into the commercial aspect of everything, there really isn't too many similarities. Kind of like I said, real estate is kind of just a general description of a huge industry. If you're an appraiser, you don't know the inspection side. If you're a wholesaler, you don't know how to be an agent. There's so many different pieces that go into it. So single family to commercial, they're both assets on land, but I feel like the similarities kind of end at that point.
No, you make an excellent point. I personally, as I explained before we went on the air, I've got a background in real estate, and it was the earlier part of my life, even my degree in college. But I've never worked on the consumer side, as I call it, the residential apartments, anything. I just never, I got to start in the commercial. I love the commercial side, and stuck with it. So the opportunity to make money, is it stronger on the commercial side or on the residential side?
I don't think there's one that's stronger than the other. I've actually kind of done blogs and was trying to create a book around this exact concept, was I feel like you need to be drawn to what your personality connects to. And I feel like each asset class in real estate aligns with like a different type of personality on like the performance, the type of people that you connect with, the type of like funding and projections and everything. So residential, I feel, is just a different type of personality. But you can make just as much, if not more, on the residential side as the commercial side. It might take more. You might need 100 homes versus, 2 commercial buildings or something like that. But if that's your passion and that's how your personality flows, that could be easy for you. And then on the commercial side, you might not understand. And so there's definitely a lot of money in real estate in general. It doesn't really matter which side you're on.
Right. Well, it usually dictates, in my experience, that you do have a higher rate of return because of the increased risk versus owning a stock or making some kind of other investment. As an investor, when I invest in real estate, I'm seeking a 20, 25, 30% return, generally speaking, versus 5, 10% in the stock market, if we're lucky these days.
Right.
Right. So it's a kind of a different ball game. Let's
Yeah.
shift gears a little bit. Really, to talk to those who are listening that either own a location where their business is, or multiple locations, or lease a location, 2 different worlds, but they want to engage an agent. What's important for me in finding an agent? What characteristics? What do I look for to find a good agent?
Yeah. If you're on the commercial side, I would strongly encourage to make sure you find an agent that is with a strictly commercial brokerage. There's different insurance, different education, just different everything. In the state of Texas, there isn't a different license. And so I think that is kind of where the gray area comes along, where people just know, almost everyone knows someone who has a real estate license. But there's a strong difference between the contracts that are used from the commercial side versus residential. So that's one of the first things that I would look at, is to make sure if you're looking for a commercial property, you need to look for a commercial agent who does that specific thing day in and day out. And then on top of that, you really need to make sure that it's someone that you connect with and actually hears what you need. There are agents out there who just need commission. I get business is business and everyone needs to get paid, but you are the one that's going to be signing a lease or purchasing a commercial property. And like I've said before, hopefully you're going to be in it for a decade or more. That's a big commitment. And it's your business and your livelihood. On the commercial side, you're dealing with people's income, not just their home that, if they don't like the yard anymore, they can sell it or whatever. So you're dealing with their business. And so you want to make sure that you have an agent that hears what you're trying to create, where you're trying to create it, the clientele that you have, and is really, really connecting your property to the needs and demands of your business. So finding someone who hears you, understands business, understands you, and is in commercial 100%.
And you touched on something that I think gets missed a lot of times, is that when I'm engaging a broker, and again, I 100% agree with you, for commercial, it's a different kind of step for me to take, business versus personal, buying residential.
Yeah.
But it really is important, because typically leases, you're locked in. You can't just go in and a year later you're unhappy because of this, that. Or if you buy the property, you just can't turn around. The cost would be exorbitant. And I've seen that happen. Somebody moves in, just like you mentioned the house. You move into the house, you're all excited, and you get there and you neighborhood's just not right for us, whatever. But the idea that to engage a commercial agent is just not a hit and run thing. You've got to somehow build a relationship with them so they do hopefully understand what it is that you're really looking for your business. It's not just a checklist. It's the nature of your business, the culture of your business, and so on and so forth. Plus, as many professionals, I find if someone's truly professional, they'll take that real estate issue. In other words, we want to relocate, we do this. Well, who do you serve? Where are there? What type of shipping is available in and out, if that's an issue, and so on and so forth. They will ask those kind of questions. So it's not just you saying, well, I want to go down here, and say, well, what about this? They're there as an advisor, hopefully a trusted advisor, insurance agent, lawyer, accountant, anybody in that category. I think I look at commercial agents and real estate for that, residential. So the professionalism of who you're dealing with is really important.
Exactly. I mean, your real estate, it's, we have to be careful with like consulting too much, but there does need to be an advisement. We're in it day in and day out. And so, your business. And so you need to tell us your business. And then with that information, we know the market. So we can plug you into the market where your business would be most successful, depending on the needs of that business. Because some can be in a rural area and some need to be fully exposed. So, and that's communication. That's on both sides. That's the agent, yes, needs to ask the right questions, and the business owner needs to be able to be open and working directly with that agent through and throughout the whole process. So, and with that, you can create an amazing space and your business can thrive.
Key I want to convey to people is selecting an agent to represent you. Again, particularly with commercial real estate, you need to do it right. You need to take the time to do it. Just don't hire your second cousin because he's your second cousin.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
family, be careful.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our first segment. We're going to take a brief commercial break. I hope you'll continue to listen, and we're going to kind of delve into whether I should own or lease my business location and some other topics. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we're having, I think, a wonderful conversation about all things real estate with Miss Valorie Williams, who is an agent, who's been an investor, a manager, just has a total all-around education and background in real estate, both residential and commercial. So it's like we have our own guru today on real estate, and grew up in the business too. Father was in the construction business, building bridges. I mean, you've done it all, Valerie. There's just, or been exposed to it, should we say, or experience. It's a wonderful background. Well, let's talk about that proverbial question that comes up to many businesses. Should I buy my location or should I lease? And it may not come up when we start the business, but as we go along, one of the ideas that I bump into with people is, well, we've grown, we've done well, but I want to buy a permanent location. Rents keep going up, so on and so forth. So walk us through what we should consider as a business on buying and owning versus leasing for our business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they have two different goals. So, I mean, leasing, I would connect that to a little bit more of like a small business owner, someone who might need to, isn't able to handle too much of the overhead, and might need a little bit more traffic exposure. And so a smaller space that can be kind of in like a shopping center, a retail center, something like that. Those are great leasing opportunities, but you also want to make sure you're looking at the next 3, 5, 10 years of your company. Are you able to bring in more product? Are you able to have enough parking? What is your end goal? So, I mean, a lot of the decision makers come from how much you have today. And that makes sense. I mean, you need to make sure that your business is performing and you're aligning yourself with whichever location you have that makes sense for your company today. But it is good to look to see, okay, well, this is what I'm projecting for in 5+ years. So what opportunities do I have? Are you at a location that an opportunity could come up where someone has a lease next to you where you could break down that wall and you could expand into that other location? Is your landlord open to doing rent to lease or for sale by owner or something for those spaces? Could you buy those individual suites, or would you have to move completely? If you're in industrial, like you said, I mean, where's your shipping and receiving coming in? Where's your location at? So there's lots of different pieces to look at per location. But one of the bigger pieces, like I touched on, was all-in cost. So a lot of times when you're a smaller company and you're just coming up, leasing does make more sense in some essence, where you can put more money into your business and not into the building. And so leasing is so popular in that aspect. But another side of it is if you actually own the real estate, then that is a bigger tax write-off, and you're able to actually have a building that's appreciating. So it's kind of, it's dependent on the type of business you have, how long you've been in business. I mean, if you just started and you're coming out of your garage and you're just trying to get a location for the first time, I highly encourage you to lease. And I will look at a lease that's like 1 to 2 years, and definitely get with an agent to get terms that are aligned with what you're needing. But if you've been in business for 3 to 5 years and every single year you're seeing growth, I would strongly encourage to look at a property that you could grow into and expand, because then you're going to capitalize on more opportunities for your overall business and your, in essence, like wealth creation, where you're getting appreciation and the tax benefits. So if you're in it just for your business and you're not interested on the real estate side, always lease. But if you're looking as your business to grow and expand on all aspects, then definitely have the opportunity to buy. And if you have an opportunity to then lease out other spaces to other businesses. So, I mean, there's lots of opportunities there if you own it. You can definitely get creative that way, but it does take more capital to get into the building, and that money doesn't go into your business. So again, it's how you're financially structured from the get-go, and how long you've been in business, and what you're really looking to create in the next 5 to 10 years would be my questions I would ask a business owner coming in, because we do have people come in and say, I want to buy, which is great. But like I said, if you're a year or two into your company and you really don't have that many funds, leasing is a strong aspect at that point. But then talking to the landlord and looking at a location where the possibility of expanding and buying could be something in the future, if needed to be. So,
one of the things I find that people that or my advice as a business counselor, mentor, advisor, is if you're going to buy and own your location, and say your business is a local business and you just single location is all that you envision, you take your business plan or whatever you want to call it, where are you going to go with that business, and when you exit that business, I've seen a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, they work towards that building, they want to own that building. It becomes part of their exit strategy because they end up selling the business. They lease back the building, so they own the real estate, and eventually they can sell it, but it gives them a stream of income. So like you said, there's a number of alternatives. Mm-hmm. It's not just owning or leasing for the day-to-day business advantages, but also, like you mentioned, taxes. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I see it as potentially, again, taking factors that you mentioned into consideration as well as others, that this can be an integral part of your exit strategy, meaning how much money you want to exit your business with and go forward, or how much value asset that you want. And it can work for a lot of people. So then you become an investor, not necessarily a business owner who owns his own building. You're the investor that owns the building that your buyer has leased back. And it also can be a good strategy when you sell a business to do a new lease with the incoming business. You've got control over that, which I have seen make more deals the little thing that was missing that made the deal. They gave them a lease that was, a little bit, sweet on one end, and it made that deal work for the buyer. So again, I think it's something that every business, again, subject to some of the criteria you mentioned, needs to take a good hard look at somewhere in their life cycle and have that potential and see if it works for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think another thing to just remind listeners out there, I mean, if you're looking at commercial real estate, just to realize that every single piece of that contract is negotiable. And, we talked earlier about, what do you look for in an agent, or who should you actually use? I mean, that's why it's so important, because the contracts are there, but every single piece you can align differently with your specific needs in your business. And so it's exciting in that way, because you can create something that is so perfect for where you are today, with terms in it for where you want to be. And there's so much that you can do. Like you said, there's just so many different opportunities that are there. So I just encourage listeners to not get stuck on an interest rate or a specific term, or, whatever the contract has, because if that doesn't work, then just voice what you need. And there's just so many different ways to negotiate it, make it work for all parties involved, and just create so much more than just, like you said, just where you are today and money coming in, money going out. So
yeah, everything's negotiable, right? It's
yes.
just one of my general principles. Unfortunately, so many people are afraid, or whatever the right word is, that it's going to make things worse or lose the deal or whatever. But yeah, you're 100% right about that.
Right? They say what? No, every question not asked, the answer is always no, or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't voice your opinion and your needs, they might not all get the way you want them to be, but you'll get closer to what fits best for you, and everyone's excited about it. That's how it should be.
You shoot for that total package if the bottom line works for you. Let's shift gears a little bit as we kind of wind down our conversation today, and kind of move to me the next step. I own a business. I've decided whether I'm buying or leasing. Maybe not as you encouraged initially when I start the business, but when I grow to a certain point and the business is doing well. Another aspect of this is investing in real estate. And yes, when you buy your building, you've invested in it. But the idea of investing, if I invest in real estate as a way to supplement or in addition to my exit of my business that I'm going to have a certain amount of income come in, what are some of the things what kind of mindset do I need to have to be a successful investor in commercial real estate particularly?
Mindset, I would say try not to get rich off of one deal. I see that quite a bit. Buyers and sellers, they want all of it in that one lump sum. There's so much reward in commercial real estate for everybody involved. And so not being greedy is super key, especially it's a small community. And so everyone gets to know you and how they want to do business with you. So try not to make everything on the one, but look at all the numbers. I feel like, especially like in today's market, everyone's really fixated on interest rates. And when you invest in a property, there's a lot of other important numbers to look at, and a lot of other things that are taken into play of what's going to create a good, strong investment for years and years and years to come. So with that, the other mindset is think of it in long term. So like today, people have a little fear strategy a little bit because of real estate and the market and the recession, but you're not buying a property to buy today and sell in 7 months. So create a portfolio and a property that you'll make your money and what you want to make and what you want it to look like in 10, 20, 30 years, not in 12 months. So obviously don't get yourself in a financial situation where it's not making any money, but I would say switch your mindset to longevity and possibly legacy creation, something you can pass down to your children, and set it up that way. So that would be my biggest piece.
Yeah, that makes sense. You do have certain flexibility, and you hit on something I want to touch on before we go a little bit later, but is right now there's a certain negativity in the conversation about real estate. Lead article in the Wall Street Journal this morning even about, but it's about office buildings that are multi-millions, maybe billion-dollar buildings, and you got to make sure they're talking about your segment, because there are segments in real estate just like they are in any business, and one may be doing very well, one may be doing not so good, so it shifts. But if I'm going to buy real estate, I'm going to invest in it as part of my of the assets I want to accumulate and create my wealth creation plan. What are some of the basic things I need to focus on? I know we've touched on some things throughout the conversation, but what would be some of the things I need to focus on, some of the issues on buying commercial real estate that I need to consider in general?
I would say each individual kind of has a different financial structure of what they can take on. And we talked briefly a little bit about risk earlier as well. And so, in general, you need to look, is it cash flowing? Is that important to you? Are you looking at the cash flow aspect of a property, or are you looking at the appreciation rate of the property? How much are you able to put debt against it? I think it's just good knowledge all around that just because a bank will lend it to you doesn't mean you should take that amount. So make sure you know what kind of debt you're putting against a property, of how it's going to sustain through everything. Even if we weren't in a recession, that's what I would encourage. If they're going to give you 85% of a loan to value, that does not mean you have to take 85% loan to value. The bank is mitigating their risk in other ways. So, you kind of want to know your asset class as well. If you're looking to invest and you're looking to invest in commercial, I would study each asset class because, like you said, they're all very different. So, and then CapEx. A lot of individuals are selling their properties because they haven't done any maintenance on them for 10 or 20 years. So that definitely needs to be in your bottom line of what you're going to put into it, what you're going to create out of it. Those would be like the most basic pieces I would look at, is what type of debt you're going to use, cash flow appreciation, and then what it's going to take to create the performance that you've projected for that particular property.
Now, take for example what I mentioned. I own an operating business. I'm doing well. I'm looking at, I'll call it for now, wealth creation. In other words, my estate is what I typically call it. That's the lawyer coming out. But the idea, but I don't really have a background. And you just talked about certain criteria or issues I need to be aware of. What's the best way for me to get a background? I'm not going to become a full-time real estate investor, but I want to make an investment perhaps beyond just my own building or operational facility. Where can I learn more about this, or how should I go about it? Do I look for an agent that is being willing to walk me through these things, or what's the best way for me to get up to speed?
No, I love that. So if you're looking as the investor's perspective and you don't have necessarily all the education or experience on that side, I would not encourage you to go to a commercial broker. I would reach out to local real estate investing groups and find an individual, not necessarily a mentor program, but I would connect with individuals who do have that expertise. And so, like I talked about before, there's lots of different facets in the real estate industry, and you are coming into it with whatever your own specialty is. Whether that's the financing aspect, the operational aspect, but not many people have experience in all of it. So aligning yourself with an individual who's going to make up for your weaknesses is a huge strength, and that can be through different books. YouTube's obviously a big thing out there. I just want to be careful of who's actually presenting the channel. So you want to make sure you're doing your research, not just listen to what's being said, but who's saying it. And then, like I said, local RIAs are a great place depending on what asset you're looking at and where you're looking to invest. So, if you're looking to invest in Ohio, go to a RIA in Ohio, not necessarily one in Texas, because sometimes they have different points and things to talk about, and you can connect with the local there who could partner with you.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That was a strategy we used back in the day. So to find partners, especially if we went across state lines.
Right. Commercial is a team sport. So connect yourself with the right team players.
Yeah, good point. And a good CPA is very helpful too. They can provide a certain educational ability as well as keep the tax taxes straight and the tax write-off straight, because they're a big part of real estate.
That's a huge part of real estate that I think people don't go into. You want to buy your property based off the tax performance and what you're going to get through that. And your investors will look at that as well. What are you providing them from tax benefits? And that comes into your return as well. So you can calculate that in. And investors look at that. So you want to make sure you're looking at that in the buy as well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And it can be a lot of fun. I don't want to leave that out. Well, as we wind up today, let's talk a little bit local. But first, we touched on it just a few minutes ago, what's really happening in the market, which would per se be here versus what the news said. As I mentioned, lead article or front page article, Wall Street, is about how the current downtrend or weakness in the real estate market is worse than perhaps in 2008, 2009, we had a financial meltdown or whatever, and he goes into some details about it. But what's important for me to understand? I mean, the news is one thing, right? Mm-hmm. But what's really happening?
What's really happening is people are still buying and selling. We had a huge scare in 2019, 2020. Really, no one knows what to expect or what's really going to happen. So at the end of the day, make sure whichever path you take, you are set up. I briefly talked about debt. Don't dive all in. Don't leverage everything. Still make smart financial sound decisions. But the market's always moving. And like I talked about as well, are you buying for the next 7 months or are you buying for the next 10 plus years? So, as long as you're operational and you're in, what you're doing is creating an income, I think you're good. We have a development happening all the time. We have a ton of, specific to this area. Other places in the nation might see a heavier hit of a recession, but as you said, Montgomery County and Conroe, we've been the fastest growing county in town since 2017 on and off. So we've seen so much growth and been very competitive in the market overall. And there's a lot of businesses and developments still coming in and planning to come in. People are not stopping. So some assets are going to struggle, but that's, again, do your research, align yourself with the right partners depending on which asset class you're interested in, and be creative. This isn't a stagnant industry. So if you're able to step in and be innovative, then you're fine. A lot of office suites are turning into condos. So don't get stuck on black and white and what things should be. It's really an opportunity. Commercial, like I said, every term is negotiable. Real estate is whatever you want to create, whatever you want to change it into. And people are really open to any and all ideas. We had metal cargo buildings, that was a huge thing for a long time and stuff. So it's amazing what you can create and develop. And I wouldn't, if you're stuck on 20 years ago or 30 years ago and that's how you want to operate and that's what you want to be and you want it to be just a super, I call it vanilla investment, maybe put a pause on it or start really small or just be really careful about your next steps. But there's too much opportunity and too much movement, and if you wait, you'll always be waiting.
I noticed, the price of property here in Montgomery County, particularly around Conroe, which I'm most familiar with, because I have small businesses come to me and said, well, we were going to buy an acre or 2 acres to put our light industrial building on, mm-hmm. for our AC repair company, and they wanted $1 million some, and I just can't grasp,
Yeah.
And so the prices of land in Montgomery County have skyrocketed. What would you say if we round up today, that I'm looking at the real estate, I'm looking to invest, I want to, or even just do business? Why come to Montgomery County? What is so attractive? Besides, we're doing great, right? But the people who are doing great, they decided to come here. What is my reasoning for coming to Montgomery County to do business, to buy real estate? That kind of is Texas overall-ish. I would say, the community that we have, it really draws in. And the land availability, which is going to become even more and more scarce, and so it's expanding out. The fact that we're a neighbor of Houston, which is a really strong city within the state itself. But not to get too much on the political side of things, but
tax benefits for businesses and the politics that we have in Texas are very business friendly. So people want to come here, and Montgomery County it's a nice area. Between the weather and the lake, we have a lot of amenities that can be provided. We have a very strong school district. So businesses come where the people move, and we've really created a community where people want to live. So I think that is kind of a strong pull. And accessibility. I mean, we're by an international airport, we're by a port. Like, there's just a lot of different reasons why businesses would want to come between distribution, location, community. And I think Conroe has done a really good job on that to really entice new businesses coming in and new developers coming in. And I think it's just going to stay strong. I think it's going to get bigger. Magnolia, it used to be non-existent, and now it's a very popular town to move to for people with acreage. So, I think the circle's going to get a lot bigger, but development is not going to slow anytime soon.
Well, 2 comments to that. One is the Economic Development Council here. It's just amazing, bringing businesses in the area, and the large business parks that they particularly focus on. It's just amazing. The types of businesses, a variety of businesses.
Yeah.
And then Magnolia, don't forget, right now they have a building moratorium because they don't have enough fresh water because the growth has been so dramatic and so quick. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for the outlying communities, Montgomery, Magnolia, some of these, even Willis. That place is just booming, is to provide the infrastructure to support the growth within their jurisdictions. Very interesting, in my opinion. Conroe's done a great job. They have stayed ahead of the curve, at least what I see. So lots of opportunity here in Montgomery County, Conroe, wonderful people to do business with. But remember, it's almost like a mini gold rush. There's lots of people trying to get in and do things. So sometimes getting your plans approved at City Hall moves a little slower than it should or used to. So we see a lot of neat things happening and a lot of people moving here to do business and to work for businesses. Mm-hmm. Well, Valorie, I can't thank you enough for taking time to join us today. If people would like to get in touch with you and talk about real estate, or perhaps they need an agent, what's the best way for them to do it?
Yeah, you can call or text me. My number is 281-506-4017. And email, obviously, is the best way because I'll always get back to you on that. Valorie at MHWRE.com. And that's Valorie with an O.
Well, again, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll stay with us. The second half of the show today, we've got some interesting things to come in, and I hope that you'll stay with us to talk about where does your business stand with the supply chain. Now, that sounds big corporate, but it really isn't. Small businesses are impacted directly and indirectly by supply chain issues every day. So please stick around and we'll have a discussion about it. We'll be right back with you.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Don't miss Lone Star Community Radio on TV and YouTube. Our talk show and music shows are featured on Our City TV, Suddenlink Channel 12, and have their own YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with posted shows and comment on them below the video.
Every Friday, tune into Texas Ticket on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM with Armando Nino of Gold Lake Conroe, focusing on Montgomery County area events and places. Get a feel of the Texas spirit at the event, paired with guest and vendor interviews, event coverage, and ticket giveaways, and so much more. Join us Fridays and punch your Texas ticket. For more information on the show, visit irlonestar.com/Texas ticket.
Health Center Southeast Texas is a federally qualified health center. We accept Medicare, Medicaid, and most major private insurances. For our self-pay patients, we have a sliding scale discount program available. Our health centers have qualified providers and staff striving every day to provide the best quality of care to our patients. Services offered are family medicine, behavioral health services, telepsychiatry, and pediatrics. We have 4 area locations. Look up the Health Center Southeast Texas online at hcset.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Valorie Williams and the real estate market here in the local area, as well as the advantages and potentially disadvantages of owning your own real estate, owning your own building, so that your business is secure, has room to expand, lots of advantages to it. And it's something I believe every business, if you have a location, if you have a firm location, should consider at some point, at least in their growth. And it works for many people. So thank you again, Valorie, for taking us through the commercial real estate business and educating us, I think, in a great way. Well, I want to talk about the supply chain with a little bit of time we have left today. I was doing some research last week and came across this issue, and it kind of intrigued me. As you may remember, over the last year or two, there were lots of news items, news stories about the supply chain, particularly as it related to overseas, China, whatnot, that the goods that were needed here in our country to do what we want to do, build products that we needed to sell, were hung up in the supply chain because factories were shut down with COVID and so on and so forth. And I think, if nothing else, most all of us, if not all of us, became aware of what a supply chain was and how it can have a tremendous impact on the ability to do business. Because I'm sure in one way or another, your business, your small business, was impacted. So I think it's an issue that I believe, with the growth in business, the growth in population, is an issue that small businesses need to consider. And the first thing you got to do is to understand that business of what it does. In other words, where do your products, your supplies come from? And it could be local. It could be in this country, another state perhaps. It could be, a mile down the road, right? And in some cases, they're buying products and supplies, the ones they resell to you, from someone else. So to understand where everything's coming from, if you will, you've got to know where your supplier, your distributor, your dealer is getting the product or supplies that they in turn sell to you. And so I think, for once and for all, that every business, in order to protect itself, if nothing else, needs to be aware of where the products and supplies that it uses in its business to sell to its customers, where are they coming from, and understand if, in fact, there are weaknesses that exist in that supply chain, potential there. Delivery services, another thing that needs to be considered. Who's delivering your products? We get spoiled. We have UPS, the post office, FedEx. I mean, all these tend to work in a very efficient manner, but sometimes they get overwhelmed. And most of us have a fair understanding, even if we just receive product and don't use them as a shipper. I think it's important, though, to consider several issues for your business. First of all, I think you, at the very least, as an owner, manager, need to put another hat on. And I know many of you wear a lot of different hats, but one that says supply chain. Again, I don't think it's a hat you have to wear often, but it's one you can't forget about, or potentially you're setting your business up for disaster. So it's important, as demand has improved, a lot of businesses in a lot of places are doing well. And this is squeezing the supply chain in some places. So it's Post-COVID, it's not about COVID. Indirectly, it may still be about COVID because certain chains and supply lines are not back up to speed. And now we have growth. And this is where it really gets tough for us in trying to get additional supplies and products to keep our business running. So it's very interesting. And to keep ahead of the competition, put the hat on, supply chain hat. And what can you do? Well, first of all, if you haven't already done it, find backup suppliers. That doesn't mean you have to start buying from those people on any regular basis. Might help if you open an account and do a little business so you're at least on the list, if you will. But find people that can supply your key, at least your key and most important products and supplies. It's taking a diversified approach that's important here. Relying on one supplier is like relying on one customer or having one customer who dominates your business. This doesn't end well, and it won't end well on the supply side some point down the road. Expect that there will be production delays. So this gets down to what you keep in inventory. Again, looking at the key products and key supplies that you have, it doesn't have to be across the board. You need to, again, put the hat on and emphasize. Some businesses are large enough that they would do well by hiring somebody, maybe on a part-time basis, like a fractional CFO or a fractional CTO. And that's what you need to do if your business is large enough, particularly if you're primarily just a reseller, to make sure you have the stock of what you need. And when you have a problem, last but not least, be honest with your customers. Give them the straight scoop, heads up, because if you try to lead them around and mislead them about when you're going to have product available, you're going to create a disaster for you and your business. Well, again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. I want to thank Valorie Williams again for joining us to discuss all things real estate. Put a note on your calendar. We'll be back next week, 11 o'clock, right here, Lone Star Community Radio. And until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.